So hello everybody, Craig here from MNCD Consulting, and today we're into the Profit Project interview series where today we're going to be talking about wonderful wealth, and I'm excited to have this guest on today who is an expert in this space, and it's the awesome Salena Kulkarni, who runs the Freedom Warrior program that I'd love to introduce to chat with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Really great to be on.
Yeah, so on this show, we talk about wonderful wealth, and that can mean so many things to so many people, financial, emotional, social impact, so many things. What does that sort of wealth term mean to you, Salena?
That's actually a really good question, Craig, and it's a difficult one as well. Look, for me, the journey towards wealth creation and financial freedom has always been one motivated by obviously very personal reasons. But for me, money has never really been about power. It's never necessarily had anything to do with, enjoying the finer things in life. It's not about fancy cars, fancy holidays, all those sorts of things. For me, financial freedom is about the pursuit of getting your time back, having, mastery over what you do, how you do it, who you work with, how you influence your community, your tribe. And so financial freedom, in my experience can be it's not about the amount either. So you can have someone who's financially free earning 50,000 a year passive income, and you can be completely lumbered with stress and burden if you've got a net worth of 10 mil. So it's not about the numbers. It's really about the impact.
Yeah, awesome. Already so many cool little things in that, and to round that off with impact, and also you touch upon there the whole time aspect, and it's a common theme that I'm hearing in this. It's it is actually our most valuable asset, and being able to have a wealth of time is a pretty cool and amazing thing. So I guess I introduced you that you do know a little bit about wealth yourself. You've devoted a good chunk of your life to that now. I'd love for you to be able to share, I guess, a bit of your background, your story as to how you got to do what you do and why you do it. You've already touched upon a little about the why, but do give me a bit of an introduction to yourself and how you've got to do what you do now and what you actually do for people.
Yeah, look, great question again. Look, I've had a very meandering journey to where I am today. I like to say I'm a reformed chartered accountant. So I started a very traditional career, but realized very quickly that accounting was never going to lend itself to the creativity that I craved. And so I kind of left the profession to, pursue different entrepreneurial things. I set up a few businesses, dabbled in a few different things. And it was really my husband in the background who really inspired me to get interested in property. He was very enthusiastic about property investing, and I remember he would put things in front of me and I would blindly sign them. And I think after several years, I think we'd amassed a small portfolio, and I started to kind of realize I needed to actually understand what I was signing. And I was very excited when I could sort of see the results that we'd achieved. And it was probably, maybe around 15 or so years ago that, we'd already been investing for 5-6 years, but I kind of really decided to take the bull by the horns, and I really immersed myself in it, did a significant amount of additional study, sought out amazing mentors, and really, eventually got to the point where people just started to ask, oh, how did you do that? Can you help me? And so the evolution for me has been one from just this is, a creative space that I can have some fun in to, full alignment with, what I want to achieve. And, certainly I see myself with the program that I run now as being very contrarian. I think what I do flies in the face of traditional investing. But yeah, look, it's, what I do now is I'm trying to help people understand how to take the capital and income that they already have and turn it into cash flow that creates financial freedom rapidly.
Yeah, awesome. So many cool parts of that journey. And obviously, being a reformed accountant myself, I totally resonate. And I know that, yeah, we have that very shared background there, which is on my face every time you mention that. But yeah, I guess very interested. Obviously, you've taken that meandering path. What challenges have you found along the way? And I guess, and likewise with some of your clientele that now, you teach a lot of those lessons that you've learned along the way and some of those challenges you've had. What have some of those challenges been for you and your clients over time?
I think one of the biggest mistakes I see investors make is confusing high income with high net wealth, or being wealthy. I think people think if they get to a certain level of income that translates to being rich or being wealthy. And having worked with a lot of high net wealth individuals over the last 10 or so years, I recognize that often when you pull back the curtain and actually have a look at, what's going on behind the beautiful houses and the fancy cars and the expensive holidays, there's not a lot of substance there. And as we're experiencing right now in the midst of this crisis, there's a lot of people who on the surface of it seem to really have their act together. But, the minute the crisis where there's been a disruption to their income comes along, they're completely floundering, and potentially not going to survive. I think the second mistake that I see often is people thinking that high net wealth is the ultimate goal. And again, having worked with a lot of people who've amassed huge property portfolios, again, when you start to diagnose what's going on, you realize that there's no freedom in the wealth that they've created. If anything, it's a massive noose around their neck. And the experience is not one of freedom at all. It's just more burden. So I think, net wealth for the sake of net wealth just is meaningless unless you can turn your capital into assets that deliver you cash flow eventually. You really are on the treadmill.
Yeah, exactly. So true, and that are two great things for people to be aware of and conscious of. And I guess looking at that outlook and some of the goals that they have in mind of repositioning what some of those goals are. And I think that's something that's so powerful in what you've just shared there. And you touch upon a little bit there. One component there is the cash flow side of things as well. It's something that I obviously see in the world that I live in, the whole from the business side of things, but also it obviously equates to the personal side of things and people building that personal wealth and needing that cash flow to be able to do it. So I guess from that, the people working through those challenges, if they're able to sort of reposition their mindset and have some of those challenges in mind and reposition that thinking, and I love the contrarian outlook. Again, I'm very big on what I do as well, from that sort of looking at things differently. What are the benefits and outcomes that people start to see as they start to shift that mindset and start to sort of implement some of the things that you've sort of implemented in your own life as well, and some of the things that you share?
Look, I think the first thing that really surprises people is that I think we're sold a story by the wealth industry that it takes a really long time to develop financial freedom. And I think that I don't agree with that at all. And certainly my clients are experiencing being able to, develop income fairly rapidly if they have access to the right kinds of strategies and assets. So I would say to you that, developing financial freedom can be relatively quick. You can achieve in 3 to 7 years what might otherwise take 20 or 30 using traditional means. I think also the idea that you should really retain control over the investment decisions that you make. I think too often people, I think I use the word abdicate. They give their car keys to someone else, a financial planner or whoever, and they just kind of hope that that person will take good care of their money and that they'll get where they want to go. But again, that's ultimately going to be the slowest path, because they're going to put you into mainstream products with average results, which get you there in 40 years time. It's really, for me, those are more like glorified savings plans rather than wealth creation. So yeah, I think they're probably two things that kind of come to mind. I'm not sure if I answered that the way you were intending.
That's all good. Again, this is all just sharing great information. And I guess I love those little two touch points you sort of referred to around ownership and, for that matter, of accountability as well to people themselves. Because, yes, you're so true that people do just often go, hey, here's somebody that's saying they can do this. Hey, go and do it. And then when things don't quite pan out, it's not a good look. We've both seen the back end of that when it hasn't worked out well for people. So retaining ownership and having that control of that is definitely paramount and something that resonates with me. So yeah, conscious, we like to keep this nice and short and sharp. And now I'm going to ask, just to round the conversation off a little bit, is what's a couple of tips? So one or two sort of tips that people can take action on, and whether it's a mindset that's basically that wealth mindset kind of thing, potentially for one tip, and even an actionable, practical tip that people could sort of implement from today, from tomorrow, that they could just shift the way that they're looking at things around, wealth and wealth creation.
Really good question. I think there's two games that go on in life when it comes to money. The short game is one which most people play. It's about, how do I design a life so that I can enjoy my life now, today? How do I earn a lot of money so that I can build the lifestyle that I want? And the focus is completely on enjoyment in the now. Outside of that, though, is another game that goes on, which I like to call the longer game. And the long game is where things like investing lives. It means, being able to take $1 out of your pocket today and decide to put it somewhere that might not, you might not enjoy till some point in the future. It's where financial legacy lives. It's where far fewer people play. And if I were going to kind of translate that into a practical tip, it would be that the number one attribute that's necessary for getting on the path to financial freedom is stewardship. And that's why I think the work that you do is so important. And, for me, the starting point with people is, if we can't be good stewards of our money, if we can't learn how to care for it, then, investing is almost just like a leaky boat. It's going to be really slow, really painful. And, I'm not suggesting that people starve their lifestyle either, but I think it's understanding that there's a spectrum, and, just setting out some simple rules for how you manage money can often be the best starting point.
Yeah. Awesome. It's great little tips there that people can sort of start to get their mindset right around some of these things. And I'm glad you touched upon the notions of sort of impact. And I know I've been to an education session with you, and I know one thing that you definitely got me thinking about was that whole idea of legacy. And it's something that's, so pertinent with what many people's goals in life are, of, doing certain things to generate wealth and a lifestyle and whatever it is. But often, that legacy mindset idea, and I think you talked about intergenerational wealth, and again, that is also not only a financial aspect, although there is a component of that, but it also does mean more than just the finances as well. And so it was a while ago since I've done that, but it's two things that have definitely stuck in my mind from that time. So yes, thank you for sharing that, because it's definitely stuck with me, and I know I've been using it myself in some of the conversations that I have with people as far as where that goes. And I know Mike McCallowitz, the author of Profit First, his latest book actually talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the top of that is legacy. And so very relevant with some stuff that I'll be sharing more on the Profit Project as we move forward. So
awesome.
Thank you very much for your time, Salena. It's been so good catching up. And even in that short space of time, the amount of little gold nuggets that you've shared with people to, look at things a little bit differently, open up their mindset, and a couple of practical ideas that they can implement to be able to, have wonderful wealth in their life. It's been really cool. So really appreciate you coming on the call today.
Total pleasure. And yeah, always great to catch up. Appreciate your time.
We'll catch you soon. And if you want to see more videos like these ones, just continue to follow us on The Profit Project. See you soon.